Imagine stepping into your dream home, ready to start fresh, only to have your peace shattered by a neighbor who believes you don't belong. Bricks through windows. Threats in the dead of night. Police who protect the wrong side. But this family? They refuse to back down. And what happened next will leave you absolutely speechless. Stay until the end to see the moment that changed everything. And if you love powerful, real-life stories, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Let us know where you're watching from. We see you, and your voice matters. The Johnsons had worked for years to make this dream come true. Ron, his wife Lauren, and their 7-year-old daughter Sophia pulled into the quiet cul-de-sac with hearts full of hope. Their car rolled to a stop in front of a beautiful 2-story home, a moving truck right behind them. The late afternoon sun cast a golden glow over neatly trimmed lawns and manicured hedges. Everything about the neighborhood felt peaceful, safe, exactly what they had been searching for. Ryan stepped out, stretching his back as he took in the sight of their new home. Light blue siding, large front-facing windows, a cozy little porch. Lauren had already planned to fill it with potted plants. His chest swelled with pride. After years in cramped apartments and the relentless chaos of city life, they had finally made it. "Look at that window, Dad." Sophia squealed, pressing her face against the glass, her curls bouncing with excitement. "It's so big. Can I pick my room first?" Ryan chuckled, opening the door to help her out. "Let's at least get the boxes inside first, champ. Then we'll talk." "Too late." Lauren teased as she stepped out, flashing him a knowing smile. "She's been planning her perfect room since we signed the papers. I'm afraid you've already lost." Their laughter was cut short by the heavy rumble of the moving truck's back door rolling open. 2 movers jumped out, hauling furniture onto the pavement. Ryan walked over to help, directing them on where to place things. But then, he felt it. It was subtle at first. That prickling sensation on the back of his neck. The distinct feeling of being watched. Slowly, he turned his head. Across the street, a man stood by his gate. Arms folded. Staring. An older white man, maybe in his mid-50s, with thinning gray hair and a slight hunch. His plaid shirt and khakis made him look ordinary, but his expression was anything but. Cold. Unblinking. Ryan gave a polite nod, trying to break the tension. The man didn't nod back. Didn't move. Just kept staring. Ryan felt a flicker of unease. "Everything okay?" Lauren asked, noticing his hesitation. She followed his gaze, but by the time she looked, the man had already turned and disappeared behind his gate. Ryan forced a smile. "Yeah, just one of the neighbors, I guess." Lauren squinted, her expression skeptical. "Weird. Let's hope he's just quiet and not something else." "Yeah," Ryan muttered, but his eyes lingered on that closed gate a little too long. The rest of the day was a blur of unpacking. Sophia ran up and down the stairs, claiming her room with triumphant cheers. Lauren focused on the kitchen. Ryan hauled in the heavy stuff, dressers, couches, bed frames, occasionally stealing glances out the front window. Kids rode bikes down the street. A woman jogged with her dog. Everything seemed normal. Almost too perfect. By mid-afternoon, they paused for a quick lunch, sandwiches and lemonade, sitting on the floor among half-open boxes. "To new beginnings," Lauren said, raising her glass. "To new beginnings," Ryan echoed, clinking his against hers. "To new beginnings." Sophia giggled, holding up her juice box like a toast. As the sun set, Ryan stepped onto the porch, breathing in the cool evening air. The sky glowed with streaks of orange and pink. The street was still. Too still. And then, there he was again. The man from earlier. This time, he sat on his own porch, a steaming cup in his hand. Watching. Ryan hesitated, then made a decision. He crossed the street. And that's when everything changed. A new home. A fresh start. But what if your dream neighborhood didn't want you there? Bricks through windows. Midnight threats. A neighbor watching your every move. And when the police protect the wrong side, what do? This family decided to fight back. And what happened next? You won't believe it. Stick around till the end to see the shocking moment that changed everything. And if you love real, powerful stories, hit like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know where you're watching from. We see you, and your voice matters. Ryan Johnson had always been the kind of man to meet things head on. So when he saw the neighbor watching from across the street, he did what any good neighbor would do. He walked over. Hands in his pockets, moving with cautious confidence, he called out, "Evening." His tone was friendly but firm. The man looked up slowly, his expression unreadable, his eyes sharp. "Evening," he replied, taking a slow sip from his cup. Ryan extended a hand. "I'm Ryan. My family and I just moved in across the street." The man stared at his hand, not shaking it right away. Instead, he gave Ryan a long, hard look, one that seemed to size him up, measure him, judge him. Finally, and only reluctantly, he reached out. A brief, firm handshake. "Greg," he said, his voice clipped. Ryan forced a polite smile. "Well, nice to meet you, Greg. We're excited to be here. It's a beautiful neighborhood." Greg raised an eyebrow, taking another slow sip. "Not a lot of newcomers around here." The way he said it, his tone, his expression, it wasn't small talk. There was something else there. Suspicion. Resentment. Maybe something worse. "Yeah, well, we're hoping to settle in, get to know everyone," Ryan said, glancing around, trying to keep things light. Greg's lips barely moved. "Looking forward to it." Flat. Emotionless. Then, without another word, he stood up, as if the conversation was over. "Good night." He turned and disappeared inside, shutting the door behind him. Ryan stood there for a long moment, a bad feeling creeping into his gut. His hand had tightened into a fist before he even realized it. That night, exhaustion finally caught up with the family. Lauren was asleep within minutes, her slow breathing the only sound in the quiet house. But Ryan couldn't sleep. Every little creak of the house, every distant rustle outside set his nerves on edge. He told himself it was just his mind adjusting to the new place. That he was overthinking. Then, he heard it. A shuffle. A faint movement outside. His heart pounded as he sat up, straining to listen. There it was again. Soft, deliberate footsteps. Slowly, careful not to wake Lauren, he got out of bed and moved to the window. He peered outside, his eyes scanning the street. Everything looked normal under the dim glow of the streetlights. Then he saw it. His lawn. Trash. Scattered across the neatly cut grass, torn papers, crumpled soda cans, bits of plastic bags. The same mess from earlier, but worse. His eyes darted to Greg's house. The lights were off. The curtains drawn tight. Ryan's jaw clenched. Was it him? He stood there for a long time, his breathing slow, controlled. Eyes locked on those darkened windows. The next morning, Lauren found him at the kitchen table, scrolling through his phone, his expression hard. She frowned. "What's wrong?" Ryan didn't look up. "Someone trashed our lawn again." Lauren's face twisted with disbelief. "Are you serious?" Ryan's eyes stayed cold. "As serious as it gets." Lauren crossed her arms, her voice sharp. "Do you think it's that guy across the street?" Ryan leaned back, his fingers tapping against the table in an irregular rhythm. "I don't know," he said, his voice low. "But I'm going to find out." Lauren's frustration bubbled over. "Ryan, this is more than just trash. What if it gets worse? What if it's not just trash next time?" Ryan stared out the window, eyes locked on Greg's house. "If it's him," he said slowly, "he's going to regret it." Tension filled the house that morning. Lauren moved around the kitchen with sharp, hurried movements, unpacking dishes with more force than necessary. Her lips pressed into a thin line, her eyes flicking toward the window every few minutes, watching, waiting. Ryan sat at the dining table, scrolling through his phone. His fingers tapped against the wood. Tap. 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 Sophia sat on the floor, coloring in her sketchbook, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing between her parents. "I'm telling you," Lauren said suddenly, slamming a cabinet door shut. "This isn't just some kids messing around. This is targeted." Ryan barely looked up. "I know." He had been scrolling through security cameras, reading reviews, checking prices. "I'm looking at cameras now. I'll order them today." Lauren turned sharply. "Not today, Ryan. Now. Order them now." Ryan met her eyes, saw the fear in them, and knew she was right. Without another word, he added the cameras to his cart and hit buy now. "They'll be here in 2 days," he said. 2 days, Lauren muttered, shaking her head. 2 days too long. And then, the sound of an engine rumbled outside. A low, smooth growl. Ryan's head snapped toward the window. A sleek red Ferrari had just pulled up in front of their house. The engine purred like a predator waiting to strike. Lauren and Sophia turned toward the window, eyes wide. "Is that?" Lauren's voice trailed off in disbelief. Ryan grinned, already standing. "Yep. That's him." The driver's side door opened. And stepping out, cool as ever, was Snoop Dogg. Loose gray hoodie, baggy jeans, white sneakers, signature shades resting on his face. And that confident walk. Something was about to go down. And you won't believe what happened next. A new home. A fresh start. But not everyone wanted them there. Bricks through windows. Threats in the dead of night. A neighbor watching their every move. And when the police refused to help, this family took matters into their own hands. But the moment things escalated, that was when everything changed. Stay until the end to see the shocking turn of events. And if you love real, powerful stories, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Let us know where you're watching from. We see you, and your voice matters. Ryan had barely finished clearing the trash off his lawn when he heard it, the unmistakable purr of a finely tuned engine rolling up to his house. Sleek. Red. The Ferrari idled at the curb like a predator waiting to strike. And then, Ryan grinned. Because he already knew. The driver's side door opened, and out stepped Snoop Dogg. Loose gray hoodie. Baggy jeans. White sneakers. Shades resting coolly on his face. That walk, laid back, unbothered, like he had all the time in the world. He spotted Ryan through the window, lifted his chin in a nod, and grinned. "Yo, Ryan," Snoop called out, voice smooth as ever. "Where my invite at, bro? You moving in without me?" Ryan laughed, already heading to the front door. He stepped out, clasped hands with Snoop, pulling him into a brief hug. "You know I had to save the best for last," Ryan joked. "Glad you came through, man." "Had to, man," Snoop said, glancing up at the house. "You know I had to see how my boy was living." "Fresh start, huh?" "Looking good, bro." Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. "Fresh start. Trying to keep it that way." Snoop caught the shift in his tone instantly. He raised an eyebrow. "What's up? Everything cool?" Ryan hesitated. Across the street, Greg's curtains were drawn tight. But Ryan knew. He always knew. "Yeah," Ryan said, forcing a smile. "We're good. Just some neighborhood adjustments." Snoop tilted his head, lowering his shades slightly to get a better look at Ryan's face. "Don't tell me these folks out here acting up already." Ryan didn't answer right away. He glanced at his front lawn, remembering the crumpled cans, torn paper, bits of broken glass scattered across the grass that morning. He'd barely managed to clean it up before Sophia woke up. "It's nothing," Ryan finally said, brushing it off. "Nothing we can't handle." Snoop stared at him for a moment, then nodded slowly, clearly not believing a damn word. "Aight," he said, letting it go. "For now. But you know I'm here if you need me." Inside, Lauren greeted Snoop with a warm smile and a playful shake of her head. "Don't think I didn't see you pull up like you in a music video," she teased. Snoop grinned, pulling off his shades. "Gotta make an entrance, baby," he said, giving her a quick hug. "You know how I do." Behind her, Sophia peeked out, eyes wide with amazement. "Are you famous?" she asked, voice small but curious. Snoop crouched down to her level, smiling. "Depends on who you ask, little queen," he said, winking. "But yeah, I've been on TV once or twice." Sophia's eyes lit up. "Cool." For the next few hours, Snoop stayed. Helped Ryan move in the heavier furniture. Joked around with Lauren. His easy energy shifted the mood in the house, bringing back a sense of normalcy. By evening, laughter echoed through the home. But later that night, everything changed. Bang! A loud noise shattered the silence. Then, another. Ryan sat up in bed, heart hammering in his chest. Something was outside. He threw off the covers, moving fast but silent. He reached the window, then froze. His breath caught in his throat. Under the dim streetlights, he saw it. Red spray paint. It covered the side of Snoop's Ferrari. Words scrawled in thick, jagged letters. "Get out." Other words. Obscene slurs. And a deep scratch, a vicious, deliberate gouge that ran from the front of the car to the back. Ryan clenched his jaw so hard it hurt. "Lauren," he hissed, shaking her awake. "Lauren, get up. Now." She sat up groggy, rubbing her eyes. What's wrong?" Ryan pointed out the window. "Look." Her breath caught. "Oh my God," she gasped. Who did that?" Ryan was already pulling on his shoes. "I'm about to find out." He stormed toward the front door, rage in every step. Lauren scrambled after him, grabbing his arm. "Ryan, wait, don't go out there like that." But he didn't stop. He threw open the door, stepping into the cool night air. It didn't cool his anger. His eyes scanned the street. Every shadow. Every movement. Then, there. A figure. Darting back toward Greg's house. Moving fast. Too fast to catch. But Ryan knew. He knew. His fists clenched, his voice sharp as a blade cutting through the night. "Greg." The figure slipped behind the house. Gone. Ryan took a step forward, but Lauren's grip tightened on his arm. "Ryan, stop," she begged. "You're going to make it worse." "Worse?" Ryan's voice was a snarl. He pointed toward the Ferrari, rage burning in his chest. "Look at that, Lauren. Look at it. Worse has already started." Her eyes filled with anger. And fear. "I know," she whispered, voice tight. "But you're not about to get yourself arrested. Come back inside." His breathing was heavy, shoulders tense. But after a long moment, he nodded. They stepped back inside. Snoop was already coming down the stairs, rubbing his eyes. "What's going on?" he muttered, half asleep. Ryan's face was grim. "You need to see your car, man." Snoop stepped outside. Silent. His eyes ran over the red spray paint. The slurs. The scratches. His lips pressed into a thin line. Behind his shades, his eyes darkened. For a long time, he didn't say a word. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. Controlled. Deadly. "They want to send a message," he murmured, shaking his head. His fingers flexed. All right. Message received. He turned to Ryan, his gaze hard as steel. But now it's my turn. They thought they could silence them. But one post changed everything. Snoop Dogg pulled out his phone, aimed it at the vandalized Ferrari, and snapped a photo. He posted it with a caption that would be seen by millions within the hour. This is what hate looks like. They thought they'd silence us, but now the whole world's watching. And by morning, the story had gone viral. Social media exploded. Outrage spread like wildfire. Everyone saw it. Everyone knew. And so did Greg. The sound of notifications pinging echoed through the Johnson household. Ryan's phone buzzed nonstop, lighting up every few seconds with new comments, shares, and messages. Snoop Dogg's viral post hadn't just drawn attention, it had ignited a fire. The story of the vandalized Ferrari, the spray-painted slurs, the harassment, people were furious. Ryan scrolled through the comments, his eyes darting from one to the next. Unacceptable. This is what racism looks like. They thought they could get away with it, but not this time. The support was overwhelming. But so were the threats. Mixed in with the encouragement were hostile comments. You should have stayed in your own neighborhood. Y'all just want attention. Ryan clenched his jaw, tapping the screen harder than necessary as he deleted the worst of them. Lauren walked into the kitchen, her hoodie pulled tight, exhaustion clear in her face. She poured herself a cup of coffee, watching Ryan out of the corner of her eye. You've been on that thing all morning, she said, nodding toward his phone. What are they saying? Ryan exhaled slowly, running a hand over his beard. Mostly support, he admitted. But the trolls are coming out too. He looked up, his eyes dark with determination. But it's out there now. No taking it back. Lauren sat across from him, gripping her coffee mug with both hands. You think Greg's seen it yet? Ryan's lips curled slightly. Oh, he's seen it. His eyes flicked toward the window. I bet he's sweating right now. Just then, Sophia skipped into the kitchen, her curly hair bouncing as she clutched her sketchbook. Mom. Dad. Look, she beamed, placing a drawing on the table. It was their house, bright green grass, a shining sun, and 3 smiling figures standing in front. Ryan smiled, reaching out to ruffle her hair. That's beautiful, baby girl. You got the whole family in there. And the house is clean. Sophia added proudly. No trash. Ryan and Lauren exchanged a glance. That innocent comment hit harder than it should have. Later that morning, the doorbell rang. Ryan checked the door camera first. A young woman in a blazer stood on the porch, holding a microphone. Next to her, a man held a video camera. Reporters. She pressed the doorbell again. Ryan Johnson, she called out. I'm Lisa Vega from Channel 8 News. We'd like to hear your side of the story. Ryan cursed under his breath. Lauren, standing in the living room, folded her arms. Don't answer it, she said firmly. We don't need them turning this into a circus. Ryan hesitated. He knew she was right. But he also knew that silence could be taken the wrong way. He glanced at his phone. The post had been shared nearly 20,000 times. People were already talking. Avoiding it wouldn't help. He stepped outside, closing the door behind him. The reporter's eyes lit up as she adjusted her mic. Mr. Johnson, thank you for speaking with us. Can you tell us how you're feeling after what happened to your friend's car? Ryan shoved his hands in his pockets, his jaw tight. He glanced at the camera, then at the reporter. We're angry, he said, voice steady but firm. We moved here for peace. For safety. But some people don't like seeing families like mine in a place like this. The reporter leaned in. Do you believe the man responsible is your neighbor? Ryan's eyes narrowed. I believe the person responsible knows exactly what they're doing. And so do the people protecting him. The reporter tilted her head. Protecting him? Do you think the police are involved? Ryan didn't blink. I think they've had every chance to step in. And they haven't. He met her gaze. You tell me what that sounds like. The reporter nodded slowly. She had her headline. As the crew packed up, Ryan's gaze drifted across the street. Greg was standing at his window. This time, he wasn't hiding. He wasn't smirking. He wasn't frowning. Just staring. Cold. Unblinking. Hate burning through the glass. Ryan didn't flinch. Instead, he lifted his chin just slightly. I see you. Greg didn't move. Then, slowly, deliberately, he pulled the curtain shut. By the afternoon, the comments online had shifted. Someone had doxed Greg. His name. His house number. His workplace. The internet had no mercy. More photos of his house surfaced. The story wasn't just viral anymore. It was personal. And what happened next? Even Ryan wasn't ready for it. The internet turned its eyes on Greg. People started tagging him, calling him out. This you, Greg? One comment read under a photo of him watering his lawn. Ryan wasn't sure how to feel. Greg deserved it. But when the internet targets someone, things can spiral fast. That night, dude, bang. A loud noise outside. Then another. Ryan bolted to the door. Glass shattered. A rock on the ground. And in the shadows, a figure darting toward Greg's house. Too fast to catch. But Ryan knew. He knew. Coward. Ryan shouted into the night. Lights flicked on. But Greg? He was already gone. Lauren was already on the phone. We'd like to report vandalism. Yes, we have cameras. 30 minutes later, the cops arrived. Blank faces, uninterested eyes. Did you see who did it? One officer asked. Ryan clenched his jaw. It was Greg. You saw him throw it? I saw him run to his house. The officer glanced at the footage. Hard to make out. Ryan's fists tightened. You serious? No clear face, the officer shrugged. Not much to go on. Before leaving, one officer smirked. Be careful who you call a coward. Lauren gripped Ryan's arm. They want you to react. Don't give them that. But that wasn't the end. 3 a.m. Crack. Another sound. This time, the living room window. Ryan moved fast, stepping over shattered glass. A brick. One word scrawled in red, leave. His hands shook with rage. He picked up his phone. Started recording. This is how they try to make us leave. A brick through the window. They think this'll scare us. They think we'll run. He turned the camera on himself, voice steady as steel. We're not going anywhere. He hit upload. By morning, the internet exploded. Support. Outrage. But also threats. Lauren read a comment out loud. Y'all just want attention. Probably threw the brick yourselves. Ryan didn't even glance up. Let them talk. They see it now. And Greg? Oh, Greg was watching. Ryan saw the curtain move. Then, a knock. Loud. Demanding. Ryan checked the camera. 2 cops. He opened the door but didn't step outside. Your neighbor says he feels threatened, one officer said. Ryan tilted his head. You mean the same neighbor who threw a brick through my window? The officer smirked. Just keep the peace. Ryan's eyes stayed locked on him. You want peace? Tell Greg to stay inside and shut up. The officer's fingers twitched near his belt. Then, a radio call. The officers exchanged looks. They had nothing. We'll be watching, one muttered. Ryan didn't move until they left. Lauren whispered, they're trying to set you up. Ryan's eyes burned with anger. Let them try. That night, it happened. 3:12 a.m. A shadow. Fast. Moving toward the side window. Ryan's phone was already recording. Then, a glint of metal. A knife. Ryan's heartbeat slowed. His breathing evened out. The figure crouched, about to carve something into the glass. Then, he saw the phone. Face. Clear. Recognizable. Greg. Greg froze. Then, he ran. Ryan? He didn't chase. Didn't need to. He hit upload. No caption. No words. The footage spoke for itself. By 7 a.m., it was everywhere. By 9 a.m., 2 squad cars pulled up. This time, they weren't smirking. They walked straight to Greg's house. And when they pulled him out in cuffs, his face red with rage, screaming words no one could hear. Ryan just watched. Then, finally, he exhaled. Lauren whispered, "You still think they don't care about proof?" Ryan smirked. They care, when everybody's watching. This story isn't just theirs, it's bigger than that. If this moved you, don't let it end here. Hit like. Drop a comment. Subscribe. Because when we make noise, they can't ignore it. See you in the next one.